Welcome to Part 4 of Formative Assessments. I am your host and formative guide, Meredith Godsall. Last week we discussed the third formative assessment technique, targeted teaching plans. This week we are going to work on the fourth part of formative assessment, giving and working on feedback with students. This technique can be used in all subjects, but my example will center around Grade 3, Week 28 of the NYC DOE Science Curriculum. So when we look through the lessons each week, you may have noticed this helpful slide. Teacher support students with disabilities. This gives you lots of helpful tips, programs, and components to use to help your students with IEPs achieve their goals. The component we are going to focus on this week is formative assessment, the feedback stage. So if you have tuned into my previous videos, you will be familiar with what formative assessments are. But here's a quick recap for those of you who are just joining in now. A formative assessment is the component of your lesson where you gather and interpret information about your students' understanding so that you are able to better assist their needs. Simply put, all techniques of formative assessment are a check for understanding. But don't stop at checking. Make sure that you use and relate the information back to your students so you can work together to fill in any gaps and push their learning forward. Please remember, formative assessments are a process that you do with the child, not to the child. This week, we are going to finally arrive at that portion. There are plenty of reasons to use formative assessments. It helps you to track a student's IEP goals. It will guide both your teaching and their learning, plus it will help you rate in the advanced category on your teacher evaluation. The hows come in many forms: checklists, question stems, performance tasks, and student responses, both written, physical, thumbs up, thumbs down, or verbal. Formative assessment is your process of collecting data, whether short or long. And based on the information that you collect, working with your student to fill in any gaps they may have and push them forward. What is conferencing? Conferences are short periods of time where you work one-on-one or in a very small group, where you focus on feedback based on students' responses. Why do we use conferencing? Well, we all know the power of one-on-one time with a student, and conferencing gives you that time. But it is best to have a plan as you go into it so you get the most out of your time. It allows you to work one-on-one with students, get clarification around parts that you may not have understood of their work, or for them to get clarification on directions or content. It's direct communication with a student, and then make sure that you have those written comments for future referral. When you conference either online or in person, there are two key points to hit. First, have a plan. Second, have a record-keeping system. For the plan, remember, conferences are usually only 10 minutes or less, and that's if you're lucky. So make sure to pinpoint what you want to work on with your students during your meeting so that you can get the most bang from your buck. And for your record-keeping system, make sure students have a written or recorded feedback that they are able to refer to after the conference so they are able to implement the feedback and strategies you've discussed. You can do this via Google Comments. You can also do this on a notebook. You can do it in a Google Doc. However, today what we are going to focus on is meeting through breakout rooms and writing Google Comments within Google Slides. In order to leave comments within a Google slide, you are going to go through and first open up your student's Google slide presentation. Now, on the Google slide, you will notice that I have a student who's left a comment in a text box. All I need to do is go up to this top right-hand corner. You'll see here are the different comments that we've seen for the history and click on this little button that says add a comment. And it'll go through and add a comment to this screen. And so I'm able to go through and write in, just as I did up here, my comment for my conference. I'm going to move into the portion where I model a conference. So when I model a conference, I make sure that I'm able to share my screen with students. So in my Zoom call, I just click this share screen button, click on specifically the tab that I would like to share with them, or I can do desktop if I want to move between places, and I click share. So I have a sample of student work up on my computer, and the student will be able to see their work and see as I'm typing. However, I am working within their document as well, leaving comments, so they're able to go through and look back later on at what I've talked about and remember the feedback that we've discussed. So I have a plan set up. I'm going to meet with the student and I'm going to discuss the comments that I have left before our conference for their claims, their work, etc. All right, so we're going to meet today and go over your assignment where you needed to find 3 parks and determine the climate within each of these parks. So we have this data here, and I noticed that you went through and you have, each of your slides has a different claim on it. For example, you have, it seems like it is both hot and cold here. So in each of your claims, you've gone through and you haven't given us anything very specific. Particularly with these ones, why do you think that it is hot or cold? Is it because it changes throughout the year? What, based on the data, makes you state that claim? So when you go through and you create a claim, I want you to use something like this to get you started. So I'm going to show you how I want it done on your first slide, and then we're going to try it together on the second slide. So I have this lovely little sentence starter here for you. During blank months, it seems to be warmer, but during blank months, it's colder. This makes me think. And then I can ... And so I can make an inference about that. So can you tell me what months does it look like it is warmer? Based on the data, it looks like it's warmer in July. That's correct. So it looks like it gets a lot warmer in July. And keeping in your mind while you're doing this, how warm is it in July? What is the warmest temperature you're going to see? Well, I see that it hits around 60 in July. Good. So we can then make the claim during June and July, or just July. You could even say summer months since we know what summer is. But what months is it colder? Well, it looks like it's colder during, well, it gets really cold in January because it's less than 0. Good. So during, I'm going to say winter months because January is a winter month, and it looks like it's about that through our normal winter months. Good. So what does this make you think? For me, since this is me showing you what to do, I'm going to look at these and go, well, it gets warmer sometimes and colder during other times, so the temperature changes throughout the year. This makes me think the temperature, well, not even just the temperature, it's the climate, because we're looking at the climate. The temperature tells us about the climate. Changes throughout the year. So that would be a really good claim, and I can go through and back that up with evidence that I've seen in these different graphs. So let's try one together. So on your noticings here, you said it seems cold there. Why do you say that it seems cold? Well, I noticed on this first graph that it seems like it only goes up to about 50 degrees. Okay, that's good. So that does seem cool even in the summer. But, let's make sure that we look at our data points. We look at our titles on each of our graphs. Will you read me the title on each graph? Low temperature by month. High temperature by month. Great. So I have a low temperature. So yeah, those are going to be colder. So can we keep the same claim when we look at the higher temperatures? So no, we can't keep them the same. So we have to look at that one more time. Let's look at that one last time. So I would go through and I would repeat this process until either I run out of time or I feel like the student has fully grasped the concept. Letting go more and more as I go through and work with the student. If you only have a short period of time with them, make sure that you know they need to use these comments all the way over here to help them. And it may be best to then give, since this student seemed to be having some trouble, to go through and include them within a small group. Here's a quick recap. In this video, we reviewed the what, how, and why of formative assessments, the what, how, and why of conferencing, the implementation of conferencing through Zoom and Google Comments, and I did a model of a student conference. Next week, we will review week 29 of the NYC DOE Science Curriculum. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Meredith Gotzel. Have a great week.